All right, we have a presentation on the 2021 Gardner Fireworks Survey results. Very popular survey that got the greatest amount of response from any of our previous surveys. Deputy City Administrator Amy Nasta, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm happy to present the results of the City of Gardner's 2021 Fireworks Survey to you this evening. At the July 6, 2021 Gardner City Council meeting, the governing body requested that staff conduct a citizen survey regarding fireworks. The survey was hosted on SurveyMonkey from Friday, July 9th through Friday, July 23rd. Staff notified residents of the survey via the city website, social media, constant contact, and Textcaster. While there are numerous varied methods for hosting a survey, SurveyMonkey was selected in order to provide the most efficient, cost-effective method for gathering citizen responses. To that end, a total of 3,358 responses were received. This is just over 2,000 more responses than any previous city survey hosted on SurveyMonkey. This also includes 3 paper copies supplied as part of a request for accommodation. While the sample size of the paper copies is small, the responses included varied in a manner similar to those included in the electronic responses. Though it is not visually demonstrated here, the answer to the first survey question, "Are you a Gardner resident?" gated the balance of the questions. Only those responding that they were Gardner residents were able to complete the survey. 3,256 respondents, or 97.05%, indicated they were Gardner residents. The second survey question asked respondents to detail any fireworks-related concerns they may have experienced. When interpreting the data, it is important to note that respondents could select as many items as they wished on this question. Approximately 52% of respondents indicated they had no fireworks-related concerns, while concerns with debris and concerns about fireworks being discharged outside of allowed dates or times were each identified as concerns by 32 to 36% of respondents. 6% of respondents identified property damage as a concern. This question additionally allowed respondents to utilize a text box to specify any other concerns they may have experienced. Approximately 9% of respondents provided a verbatim response to the question regarding concerns. These responses were then categorized and are shown in the graphic displayed on your screen. The size of each category name is representative of the amount of times a particular concern was included in the response, with concerns regarding dates and times, locations, the type of fireworks being utilized, and noise being the most prevalent. Other responses included positive comments, concerns about neighbors, safety concerns, comments regarding enforcement, and concerns about high-impact groups. When asked if the discharge of fireworks should be allowed in the city of Gardner, 79% of respondents indicated they believe fireworks should be allowed, while 21% indicated fireworks should not be allowed. In the Friday Minute Memo last week, staff provided the governing body with a basic overview of the survey results. In the overview, a set of graphs was provided in which responses from those who indicated fireworks should be allowed were differentiated from responses from those who indicated fireworks should not be allowed. For the purpose of clarity, the remainder of this presentation will focus instead only on the responses as a whole, meaning each graph is representative of all responses received to a given question, not just from one particular respondent group. The next 3 survey questions discuss the degree of restriction that respondents believe dates, times, and locations for fireworks discharge should be subject to as compared to the 2021 regulations. Response categories were comprised of a 5-point scale ranging from significantly more restrictive to significantly less restrictive, with a neutral option of stay about the same. For dates of discharge, approximately 48% of respondents felt that the dates should remain the same, while approximately 36% believed the dates should be more restrictive to some degree, and 16% believed they should be less restrictive to some degree. For times of discharge, approximately 55% of respondents felt the time should remain the same, while approximately 33% believe the time should be more restrictive to some degree, and 12% believe they should be less restrictive to some degree. Finally, for locations of discharge, approximately 59% of respondents felt the location should remain the same, while approximately 29% believe the location should be more restrictive to some degree, and 12% believe they should be less restrictive to some degree. Respondents were asked to rate how they felt about the current 7-day time frame for fireworks sales. Approximately 63% of respondents felt the time frame was just right. 23% believed the time frame included too many days, and approximately 14% believed too few days were included. The next question allowed respondents to specify the number of days they believe fireworks should be sold for. These responses were then categorized and are shown in the graphic displayed on the screen before you. Approximately 64% of respondents believe fireworks should be sold for 7 days or more. An additional 26% believe sales should last somewhere between 1 and 6 days, and 5% believe fireworks should not be sold at all. Approximately 2% felt the number of days of sale should be related to the number of days allowed for discharge. Respondents were then asked to rate the number of days of discharge fireworks were allowed for. Approximately 53% believe the current amount of 3 days was just right, 31% felt there were too many days allowed for discharge, and 16% believe there were too few days included. Respondents were also asked if the discharge of fireworks should be allowed on the day after Independence Day. The responses were split relatively evenly, with 49% saying discharge should be allowed after Independence Day and 51% indicating it should not be allowed. The next question asked respondents to rank 4 sets of dates and an other category, which allowed them to enter their own sets of dates. July 2nd through July 4th obtained the highest ranking, followed by a close ranking between July 3rd and 4th and July 3rd through 5th. July 4th only received a significantly lower ranking, while the other category received the lowest ranking of all. The other responses have been categorized and are shown on your screen. Responses falling into the category of more than 3 days were the most prevalent, followed by responses indicating fireworks should not be allowed. Other categories with numerous responses include basing discharge dates on the calendar day Independence Day falls on, and dates that were already listed in the date selections. Less than 3 days, 3 days, not after the holiday, and shifting the focus to enforcement comprise the balance of the categories. In the next question, respondents were asked to rate the current fireworks end time of 11 p.m. 62% felt the end time was just right, 28% felt the end time was too late, while 10% believed it was too early. Finally, respondents were asked if the discharge of fireworks should be allowed later on Independence Day itself than on other days. The responses again were split relatively evenly, with 51% saying discharge should be allowed later on Independence Day and 49% indicating it should not. Staff will provide a copy of the results of the survey on the city's website for the public to view later this week. At this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Amy, are the individual responses also going to be on the website for review as well?
I can do the categories, like the ones who answered yes and the ones that answered no, so the comparison categories, but I can't sort them by individual.
I'm talking about like the comments, the free-form comments.
I will do the free-form comments that are not simply numeric or something like that.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, great.
That are actually have substance or context to them. Anything that's simply numeric, I'll just include in the graphic that we already have.
Okay, great, thanks. Any other questions, comments from the group here?
If anything, the data reinforced that fireworks are overwhelmingly popular, because you said it was beat the last survey by 2,000. Which I believe the record holder was the fireworks survey from before.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
The data just is more reinforced at this point. The only thing that may want to be discussed in the future that I saw was if we switched it to the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th and made the 4th be midnight. Based off the data provided.
Based on the data, it seems that that there's a majority, although it be slim majority, of folks that say they don't want to have discharge the day after the 4th of July, which to me makes some sense because definitely people have work the next day normally. So,
I mean, we don't have.
Yeah, Mayor.
yes, Randy.
No, thank you. I don't mean to interrupt. I'm probably a little bit delayed. I appreciate the study. I appreciate, most importantly, the citizens, the 3,000 plus, that took the time to take the survey. I think the survey and the data, to Mark's point, speaks volumes. I would support the second, third, and fourth. And I don't know that outside of Dr. Winters or Councilman Winters, in addition to the second, third, and fourth, maybe discussing limiting the days of sale of said fireworks.
If we're following the data, it didn't show that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it,
I mean, it was clear that the majority thought that 7 days was sufficient.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I understand, and I may be in the minority, but nonetheless, it should be considered.
Is there any interest in considering it on the part of the folks at the dais here?
Is this information that we want to send back to a citizen committee to review, or do we want to make the decision?
Well, if we send it back to CPAC, then obviously there would be a recommendation coming from that for an ordinance change.
At this
is
point,
that-
it looked like most people said they like how it's going. I mean,
Yeah, I got that sense too.
Yeah.
But we'd have to change the ordinance anyway. If we decide we're going to go to second, third, and fourth, we'd have to change the ordinance anyway.
I appreciate your suggestion, Casey. I don't think we would need it to go back to committee since we have 3,400 responses telling us what the committee should be telling us.
no, I understand.
So that would be my only reason not to. And we don't have to do anything, but if we did anything based off the data, it would be second, third, fourth, and then looking at later. It didn't define later
On just the
but
4th.
I figured midnight would be later enough.
On just Independence Day.
Yes.
This is kind of an out there question, but could we also consider like New Year's Eve in this ordinance? I know you can't buy them because there's nobody selling them, but
Yeah.
I mean, if we're gonna rework the ordinance,
That's open, sure.
Actually, some of the verbatim responses were for New Year's Eve or other holidays. They were just included in more days.
I've had people ask me about New Year's.
It has been
That's
brought.
why it wasn't just my idea. So.
Okay, so everybody like the idea of the second, third, fourth?
Yes.
I think that that's a consensus.
Everybody good with midnight on the fourth?
I'm back and forth on that only because I think communication-wise, having the exact same hours on every day makes it just easier to put out the information. You say, hey, how late do fireworks go? 11 or
Exactly.
12 or whatever we decide. But I prefer them all to be consistent just on a communication standpoint.
That's exactly.
Yeah, I would concur with Casey. Furthermore, we have to understand, although the data is extremely valid, and again, I appreciate the citizens that spoke to this or took the time to take it's still less than 50% of the total number of houses that we have in our community, which is approximately 880 houses.
So
I think it's 8,800.
I'm sorry, 8,080 houses. Thank you, Mayor.
So to Casey's point, are we good with midnight on the second, third, and fourth? I mean, they said
That
later,
just seems
and
so late.
Yeah,
I think 11. That'd
No.
be my vote.
I like 11 probably.
okay, hey,
Yeah,
it's what the data says.
I like 11.
Yeah, I mean, the data did say that slightly more than 50% were interested in pushing it back to midnight on the 4th. It was definitely pretty evenly split.
It was.
So I would almost say that we keep it at 11, see how it goes. I think folks will be very happy to have the second, third, and fourth. It was easily the highest ranking of the responses for proposed dates. And then obviously we'll be revisiting this again at after next year.
So everybody good with New Year's Eve?
I am.
No.
2 yays, 1 no.
Let's.
I'm just trying to work this out so Amy can bring us back the ordinance when we'll be done with it.
Yeah, I understand that.
No, we don't need to debate things till then.
So exactly, what would New Year's Eve look like? What would
Probably
be
like
the
Independence
hours?
Day would be glorious.
Yeah,
Not
but I
worth
mean,
discussing.
what are we talking about here in terms of times?
Well, because times on New Year's Eve
You
would
would
have to go past midnight.
Well, yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
You would have, but that's one day that you would have to control.
So would
7
we
months
would we
away.
do
Not-
it New Year's Eve from 8 to midnight, or do we do New Year's Eve from 8 to midnight and then New Year's Day from midnight to 3 a.m.? Like,
Oh, my
how
goodness.
late do we allow them
Don't
to do it?
don't even support it. Nope. Don't open that box.
Yeah, I like the fireworks, but I'm not ready to get into a whole other day yet.
I was
mean,
gonna say
let's put it this
11:30
way.
to 12:30.
I love me my
I
fireworks.
like that
I mean, the idea is for New Year's, right? You're not gonna shoot them off for 12 hours.
I love me
Like, it'd be like 1 a.m. the following day, or whatever.
I love me
Yeah,
my
I
fireworks,
believe
but there's a
that we
lot of
tabled
people
this
out there that are
subject personally.
intoxicated that try to set off.
Another
That would
good
try to
point.
set off fireworks too.
That
Do you
happens
think
on the
there?
4th,
Yeah. Do you
too.
think there's more or less on
Exactly.
Independence Day?
Oh,
I think there's more on.
I think it'd be more on New Year's Eve.
I don't know. I bet there's less people out on New Year's Eve shooting off fireworks. So where are we?
I'm probably in the minority on this one. Who wants to do fireworks on New Year's Eve?
No.
No for me.
We have 3 on the dais that say yes.
I
So-
disagree.
So let's bring it back in.
Vehemently.
We'll vote on it.
I can bring it back with an ordinance and you can vote on it as Councilmember
And
Baldwin
if you bring
suggested.
it back to the full ordinance, including New Year's Eve, we could still edit the ordinance to vote on it.
Absolutely, you can always strike a portion of an
And
ordinance.
I like Mark's times of 11:30 to 12:30, just a very small, limited.
Okay.
But that.
I'm as I said, I'm probably in the minority on this one.
I'm with.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know, people are shooting them off anyway, and at least then they wouldn't be breaking the rules, and the police could then focus on more important things than fireworks on New Year's Eve.
Well, and
But that's-
while we're waiting for the ordinance to come back to us, we can get feedback from citizens, and
But that's another point. The police are usually pretty busy that night, and that's
Yeah.
one more thing to
doing
add to their
drunk
plate.
driving and
That's one more thing to add to the plate on that night.
So,
Yeah, let's look at the secondary cost of this, both to our citizens, our police department, et cetera. I think this needs to be tabled at best.
Well, you can bring it back.
Jay.
I am aware off the top of my head of one other jurisdiction that allows them on New Year's Day, and I believe it's New Year's Day only.
Yep.
I haven't really got into that ordinance with that local jurisdiction. You all have to set law and policy. My recommendation would be no on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day.
yeah,
if you're
I'm
interested.
kind of in the same boat on that one. But I don't have a vote, so
That's right. So
I can certainly research the local jurisdiction and get that information to the deputy city administrator.
yeah, city administrator.
Yeah, we'll bring you something and you can
Well,
discuss it at that time.
yep. I'll have a
Hey,
cage
Jim.
match.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. What is the opportunity to regulate through the permitting process with the fireworks vendors, the size of the gauge of the fireworks? I had numerous constituents speak to me both during and after the 4th of July or Independence Day. Just the size of the fireworks that were being exploded. And again, I understand that me or my family can buy from out of Gardner and blow up in Gardner. So there's some limits to this legislation. But what are the opportunities internally to limit that gauge of fireworks being sold through the permitting process?
that's state law.
Yeah, the state law allows for Class C or 1.3 gram fireworks. That's a Class C designation. I mean, internally, I assuming we could make it a rule that they can't sell them in Gardner. I think those are probably.
Yeah, I think the issue would be the enforcement side of that. You know,
Right.
as we do it with the permits now, we do inspect the stands when they're first being put up to make sure they're complying with whatever
Yep.
rules. I guess it would be one of those that if you were to go that route, then we'd need to be checking all their inventory. I don't know how many hours that might take in additional inspections just to check it as they start their stands. And then after that, what we tried to do this year with police and other things was if we thought we had somebody who was out of compliance, we did spot checks essentially, which I think went better than just the single check at the beginning of the process. But I think, again, you're talking about inspecting an inventory that may be on the display stand or in a storage container that's associated with the display stand.
Yeah, but I would very strongly doubt that the folks, I mean, they could lose their license if they were caught selling a banned explosive or banned fireworks at their stands. I mean,
I don't think we had any issue. I think it's maybe 1.4 gram is Class C and 1.3
Yeah.
is Class B. But yeah, I don't think.
I mean, I don't know of any fireworks stand that would take that chance. Now,
they can
that
go to
does not.
Missouri and get them.
Yeah, they can go to Missouri, or they can order them online, and I mean that's something that is done by some people to get around that restriction. I don't know how you would, govern that within the city.
Well, Mayor, I appreciate that. I appreciate Mr. Noppett's comments. I'm not trying to legislate perfection. I mean, we do have rights in this beautiful country that we live in. I think that, earmarking that clearly in the permitting process, and I'm well aware of labor time, but Mr. Knoppett also answered that question or a solution in that we would spot check said fireworks stands. I would take it a step further and suggest maybe reducing the number of fireworks stands, which I think would create a real desire with limited seats on the bus, if you will, of the number of fireworks stands, which have grown over the last 4 or 5 years in the city of Gardner for obvious reasons.
Director Noppick?
Number of stands have stayed about the same. Last couple of years have stayed about the same. We're running that 8 to 10 range, essentially, is what it's been.
Yeah, I would suggest 6 to 8, Dave.
Yep. City Attorney?
Yeah. So the current ordinance already does provide very specific detail about the nature of the fireworks and the grade. It's in section 10.30 A1A. Talks about the grade. It's about a paragraph long as to what a consumer firework is. Okay. So the mechanism already exists in ordinance for enforcement. It would, if there's information that people are violating it, you would just
Yep.
need to cite them or handle it as you normally would for a violation of the UPOC.
Yeah, I don't think Randy, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think he's talking about people violating that. I think he's talking about things that are within the neighborhood Class C firework, like mortars.
Sure.
That he wants to limit or ban.
Well, the mortars are.
Mortars are one of the favorites.
Yeah, that's
and,
what.
And as somebody who's worked a tent for a nonprofit, they're what sell, and they're expensive. So the stands love selling mortars, right? They don't care how many sparklers you buy. They want to know how many of those boxes of Excalibur you're going to buy at $130 a pop.
Yep. And I understand there's a concern amongst the folks in the community.
Sure.
There's a concern amongst the folks in the community about that size of explosive.
Exactly.
Precisely the noise and the effects that it can have on pets and people with certain disabilities as well as PTSD.
But that size is legal in the state of Kansas, so they could buy it from
Yep.
anywhere. And so then
And still set it off in Gardner.
We're asking our police department to go around to every house shooting off and look at their inventory. That's I mean, it's just not going to happen. All it's going to do is hurt our firework tents because people are going to have to leave Gardner to buy what they want.
Oh, they will leave Gardner to buy what they want.
Right.
The only way you can really control what is bought is if you're getting it at the vendor, right? That's how they got rid of bottle rockets. They made a state law, and then nobody wanted to lose their license.
Yep.
Right. So I mean, that still happens. You can buy them in Missouri, but it's far and few.
Yep.
I think if you try to say, well, this Class C firework is eligible, but this one is not, you're asking for a world of trouble of differentiating, and then you're going to have to tell those vendors, don't bring perfectly legal fireworks to Gardner because they're not legal here. Sounds like a mess.
Well, what will happen is that the stands won't open,
They may not. I don't know.
which I think would probably satisfy what you're trying to do, Randy, in limiting stands.
I'm not in favor of changing the class of fireworks that we sell. If we're following the state law, then I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that as well.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate everybody's state law precedents. Municipalities can have stricter. I'm not asking the police neither to go door to door. I think that's ridiculous to consider or even suggest. But I think through the permitting process, we can limit that. As for out-of-state Amazon type of deliveries, I guess it is what it is. And the mayor spoke well to it. We have albeit a minority, we do have a portion of the community that has PTSD, their pets, their autistic kids, special needs kids, and or disabled folks that are triggered, and I think they should be considered. Again, I stress the fact that Gardner Police doesn't need to go door to door. I've never said that. But it should be considered through the permitting process and the permitting process alone. No different than other restrictions or limit of restrictions as we've seen in the no mask situation.
Is there a consensus from the council to move forward with that?
No.
With looking at a permitting change to ban certain mortars? No.
No.
Okay. I think we have four councilmen or council members here, Randy, that aren't interested in that right now.
Fair enough. I appreciate the consideration.
Nope, no problem. I appreciate it. Thanks.
What
Is
else
there-
do you need?
Is there anything else that you wanted to discuss on this? I think we've got direction, and I think we've got a path forward, so there'll be something coming back in form of voter ordinance probably in the next couple of weeks.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right.